Most Batman the Animated Series villains are driven by obsession, madness, or revenge. Some are driven by all three, but the crime doctor Matthew Thorne turned to crime out of love. He had been a promising surgeon, a star on the rise, but his downfall came for his love for his brother, the crime boss Rupert Thorne. As the crime doctor, Matthew patched up his brother's wounded henchmen and sent them back onto the streets, directly contributing to Gotham's decline. This wasn't the life he had imagined for himself, and he hated it. But before I get further into the BTAS version, I think it's important to look back at the comic book source material to show how different he was. The original Crime Doctor first appeared in Detective Comics number 77 in 1943. This version of Matthew Thorne, no relation to Rupert Thorne because he hadn't been created yet, was a prominent doctor, a pillar of the community and completely dedicated to the preservation of life wherever he could. But Dr. Thorne had a secret. He operated a side business where he would treat wounded criminals to give his humdrum life a little spice, and take a 25% cut of the criminal's take. He also offered a special house call service, where embattled criminals could call on him to come rescue them from the police or Batman for 50% of their loot. Doctors are required to report gunshot or stab wounds to the police, and failing to do so risks losing their medical license, but the crime doctor ignored that duty. During a confrontation with Batman, the crime doctor was finally exposed when he had to operate on a gravely ill man and called Batman to help. He could have abandoned the patient and escaped, but he wasn't that sort of doctor. However, he soon tired of prison and escaped within a month. Once free, he resumed his old routine of using his intellect and medical knowledge to help criminals. He still honoured his Hippocratic oath though, and even once treated Robin after one criminal had shot him. Because Robin's life was still in danger, Batman agreed to a temporary truce, while the crime doctor's henchmen rushed Robin to a hospital. In a later story, the crime doctor turned down operating on a gangster's wife to assist in a robbery. When she died as a result of this, the mob turned on him and killed him. You'd think that would be the end of the crime doctor, but in comic books no one stays dead forever. Detective Comics number 494, published in 1980, reimagined the crime doctor as Bradford Thorne, the younger brother of criminal councilman Rupert Thorne. His modus operandi was the same though, a skilled physician with a secret life who aided criminals for the thrill of it. Note that he donated all of his ill-gotten gains to charity to try to cleanse his conscience. In his day job, Dr. Thorne treated Bruce Wayne's shoulder injury, and later as the crime doctor on a heist, he saw his own handiwork peeking out from under Batman's costume. This allowed him to deduce Batman's identity, which was a valuable secret. So valuable that it made him the target of the villainous Sterling T. Silversmith, who kidnapped Thorne to pry Batman's secret from him. Thorne held out though and was tricked into ingesting poison, with the antidote withheld until he told them what he knew. But before he could speak, Batman arrived, defeated Silversmith and rushed Thorne to hospital. However, it was too late. Thorne was left in a vegetative state from which he would never awaken. After Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, when most of DC's continuity was reset, the crime doctor reappeared, this time as the head of a hospital for criminals seeking discreet treatment. By this point he had thrown the Hippocratic Oath out the window and become utterly irredeemable. He used two techniques to manipulate underworld figures: withholding treatment and deliberately botching procedures, leaving victims to suffer the consequences if they disobeyed him. He didn't make many appearances and never became a major Batman villain, which makes him ripe for reinvention. Now that brings us to the early 1990s when Batman the Animated Series went into production. The Crime Doctor is a great example of the writers mining the classic comic book stories, stripping away everything that didn't work and enhancing all of the good qualities. The BTAS Matthew Thorne was once a prominent doctor, but had lost his medical license after pulling a bullet from his then fledgling criminal brother, Rupert, without reporting it to the authorities. His life had been dedicated to medicine and helping people, but by looking the other way for his brother, he lost everything. The thing was that he felt like he owed Rupert, who seemed to be the elder brother, as he reminds Matthew that it was the proceeds of his criminal enterprises that put him through medical school. Rupert Thorne was always someone who looked to turn every setback into an opportunity, as he funded a secret clinic where his brother could continue treating patients. Rupert's associates, who'd need bullet wounds treated after evading capture, or bone setting after coming face to face with Batman. Matthew went along begrudgingly, believing Rupert's growing influence would one day persuade the medical board to reinstate his license. At least that's what Rupert said he would do. But that day would never come. Matthew had become too valuable a resource, and Rupert wouldn't let him go, despite the fact that he was his own flesh and blood. And that's the tragic hook of the crime doctor. He doesn't aid criminals for profit, he doesn't get a kick out of it, and nobody actually calls him the crime doctor. He cooperates because he trusts his brother and hopes he will win his life back. His fatal flaw was in not accepting that he had done the wrong thing, and he was always looking to his brother to solve his problems, rather than facing them himself. When Rupert becomes seriously ill, the only person he trusts to operate on him is Matthew. And it's ironic that Rupert distrusts regular doctors because he assumes they could be bribed or coerced by his enemies, and it goes to show how little faith he has in humanity. But it's a complex procedure, and Matthew can't do it alone. Enter Dr. Leslie Thompkins. Now, she is a direct parallel to Matthew Thorne. The two had been close friends at medical school along with Thomas Wayne, but their careers went down completely different yet related paths. While Matthew was forced underground treating criminals, Leslie stayed in Park Row, colloquially named Crime Alley, running a free clinic for the poor funded by Bruce Wayne. She also offered off-the-books treatment for Batman and Robin whenever their injuries were too severe for Alfred to patch up. So she becomes a perfect accomplice for Matthew, even if she required some persuasion. Matthew gets her to let her guard down by claiming she's desperately needed to save a life. His own. He truly believes Rupert will do right by him and doesn't see the danger Leslie faces by cooperating. Even when she's roughly kidnapped and forced to assist with the operation, Matthew celebrates the success because he feels like a real doctor again. He's completely oblivious to the harm that he had done to Leslie. But when he realizes his brother's henchmen intend to kill her to protect the clinic's secret, he finally sees what a fool he's been. He may have tolerated having Leslie roughed up to reclaim his life, but he won't sacrifice her. That would stain his conscience forever. Despite his efforts, Matthew fails to rescue her. She almost falls to her death during the escape, but Batman catches her and brings the police to shut down the clinic. What follows is one of the most touching moments in Batman the Animated Series. Bruce Wayne visits Matthew in jail and offers to help with his legal troubles and maybe put his life back together, but he asks for a favour in return. An indignant Matthew refuses to play along, saying that he is no longer for sale. He assumes Bruce wants an underhanded favour, but Bruce really wants to hear more about his deceased father. This is the one thing that Matthew Thorne will gladly do. I like to think that once Matthew left prison, he got a second chance, perhaps even running one of Bruce Wayne's free clinics. We'll never know for certain because he never reappeared in the show or its tie-in comics. While paging the crime doctor may not be the most dramatic or exciting episode, it has an emotionally rich core about loyalty, friendship, and the bonds between siblings. It's a great example of BTAS's range. One week, Batman foils revenge plots, the next he battles mutant beasts, the next he's trying to save the life of someone close to him. Matthew Thorne is a tragic figure, someone that clearly loves helping other people, but he couldn't stop making the wrong choices. His trust in Rupert is entirely misplaced. He's a reminder of how corrosive Rupert's corruption is. Rupert didn't just ruin Gotham, he betrayed his own brother too. Ultimately, Matthew should have reported treating Rupert's injury. Maybe then he would have derailed Rupert's empire. He didn't, and he paid for it. And so did Gotham. Still, Batman sees Matthew as a repentant man who is doing the right thing now, and that matters. If Matthew hadn't turned on his brother to rescue Leslie, Batman would never have struck the deal. This is the DCAU Batman in a nutshell. He believes in redemption, and where possible, helps people put their lives back together. Matthew Thorne wasn't a criminal mastermind or a monster. He was just a man who made the wrong choice for the right reasons, and Batman understood that he was worth saving. Okay, that's it for this week's essay. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really enjoyed the video and have the means, please consider making use of the thanks button to send a buck or two my way, because every little helps. I offer channel memberships for $1.99 a month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, priority responses to your comments, members-only videos, custom emojis, and an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people. And special thanks to my channel members. Everyone who was a member at the time of this video's creation is listed on the screen right now. If you want to see your name amongst all these wonderful people, join the channel now. Next time. I'll be back on Monday to look at the results of my recent The Batman poll. I'll be talking about how the show adapted one of Batman's oldest villains, Catwoman. And next Friday it'll be time to return to the crowded streets of Neo Gotham to talk about the Royal Flush Gang and how they were crushed by the weight of their own legacy. Hope to see you then.